So my name is Josh Martinez from New York's #1 hit music station, Z100 and iHeartRadio. And something that I've been wanting to do since coming back home to the motherland of New York City was incorporate pro wrestling and pop music. I think a lot of people think that pro wrestling go hand in hand with rock music and sports radio, which is fine. But I think that people don't realize that wrestling is also pop culture, which is why I have been trying to get some pretty big stars on with me. And I don't think it gets any better than Cookie Monster Punk, depending on what day of the week it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you taking time. A couple weeks ago, I had Tony Khan in studio, which was really dope. And I brought up your debut. And he specifically said that he wanted to, and rightfully so, wanted to get a lot of business out of it. And said that he wanted to just make it as blatantly obvious as possible. And you wanted it to be a surprise. So if you had it your way, if this was McDonald's or Burger King or whatever the slogan is, what would you have done for your initial debut?
I don't think you could have done a better, well-executed plan than what we did. You know, best of both worlds. You know, we managed to monetize it without being greedy about it, but also keep it as a surprise. You know, worst kept secret, right? I literally don't think it could have gone any better.
No, and I agree. And what I told him is that sometimes the most obvious thing is still the best thing.
Yes.
And that I think.
Well, I think with AEW, I think we realize that there's nothing wrong with giving the fans what they want. You know, I think too many times it's you know, the fans are always waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. We like to give them what they want. They want great wrestling, we'll give it to them. You know, like it's an easy formula.
And I even told Tony, I said, you know, part of me, and I don't know if this is one of those, and you grew up a fan, so you'll know where I'm coming from. Sometimes we get ourselves so worked up that we almost second guess it, even though it's right in front of our face, right? So I thought, even for a split second, that MJF was just going to walk out in Chicago to start Rampage.
Lowest hanging fruit in that aspect. That, of course, did cross my mind. But then once I realized that was the thought on everybody's mind, you know, to me, it wasn't the right thing to do yet. Not yet.
There you go. Exactly. You know, ever since you came in, there's been a lot of business. There's been a lot of chatter on social media. There's been a lot of back and forth between you and folks over at WWE and you just having fun with it. And I think that's the most important thing. I think a lot of fans need to realize, like, bruh, this is fun. Just chill. I'm sure you see things on Twitter and you get all these tweets and such. People that are probably still calling you a quieter. Still to this day, for whatever reason. What would you say to those fans that are choosing a side?
You know, I get it. I think I go back and forth on this, right? Like, you're a Rangers fan, right? I'm a Blackhawks fan. So obviously we are in some ways at odds, right? But I look at it like they're both original six teams. I respect the Rangers, even though they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1994. Mark Messier is a hell of a captain, great hockey player, tough as nails. So I look at it like that. Like, a lot of times, you know, there's a ton of tribalism in sports, right? But there's only one NFL. I don't think anybody's saying that the CFL is better than the NFL, or arena football is better. You know, so it can get tedious and strange sometimes. And I think as long as people don't take stuff too far and get personal with it, like some people get personal with me right out of the gate, and I'm just like, okay, you know, like whatever. But a lot of it isn't in the real world. You know, like Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff is social media, and it is not in any way, shape, or form the real world. So that's why I like to focus on the people in the building, you know. And we're coming up tomorrow. We're going to be in Boston, and I think Boston is the last show for AEW of the ones that were booked, selling tickets before the pandemic shut everything down. So we're looking to show up in Boston and really reward those fans in the seats that sold that building out and have been waiting for us to get there for a very, very long time.
And it'll be your first official Dynamite match against
Yes.
Bobby Fish. And I think
Mhm.
what's really cool is that like you said before, the Boston angle, but it was supposed to get preempted on the West Coast, but AEW and TNT announced that it will go live, which I
Yes.
think is really dope as well.
It's very dope, you know, and that's another thing. I don't think that's ever really been done before, especially in terms of like, you know, professional wrestling. So it's just a way that, you know, because of hockey games and stuff like that, the fans on the West Coast aren't going to have to wait up really late to watch AEW. I think that's super neat. It's pretty cool at TNT to let us do that.
You
All right,
mentioned
yeah.
you mentioned the no, it's all good. You mentioned the Rangers and Blackhawks before that we're at odds in some aspect. I'm more at odds with the idea that someone would walk around thinking that Chicago pizza is better than New York pizza. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
What's your opinion on that? Because I need to hear this from you.
I think when people talk about Chicago pizza, I think the idea to the common folk, such as maybe yourself, I think is that deep dish is Chicago pizza. That's there for the tourists. That's like that's the cheese we put in the mousetrap, you know. If you're going thin versus thin, Chicago beats New York all day, every day, 100%.
I'm gonna be nice, so I will just move on to the next question. It's not what I wanted.
It's the water. It's the water. We just have better water here. Lake Michigan. You know, you guys are sucking stuff out of the Atlantic. It's not.
Listen,
It's
it
not
adds
conducive
flavor
to a good pizza crust.
It adds flavor when you're taking in all the juices as I look out into the East River now of all the things that are floating out there from my apartment. But so one of the big things, like we were saying before, is you this Wednesday night at Dynamite. When you were here in Newark, you dove into the crowd and a fan was egging you on. Coincidentally enough, that was my cousin, and he immediately sent me all the videos and stuff. He's fine. We're all good.
Good.
Haven't seen a jump like that since. Is there a particular reason as to why you haven't done that as aggressively since?
I think in NYC it's a no. Their athletic commission likes to flex, so haven't done it there. Also, you know, if I'm wrestling, I'm not doing it because I'm not trying to take chances and stuff like that before I get in the ring. I'm taking enough chances in the ring. But no, it'll come back. We'll see it. I don't know if we'll see it in Boston, but we'll see it again.
So, like we said before, Bobby Fish, he's a bit of a veteran. Is there anybody currently, I'm sure there's a list, but who are the top 3 currently on the AEW roster that you are excited about getting either back in the ring with or maybe in the ring with for the first time, since the people we've seen you in the ring with dancing so far have been first-time matches?
Yeah. Geez. The layman, I always have lame answers for this question. Like I literally want to wrestle everybody. But I'm telling a specific story here of coming back, kind of restarting, rekindling my love for pro wrestling. So I look at it like if I went back to WWE, what would I do? Tell me, what would I do? What would I have done?
Tough call. I mean, probably slingshot you into the title picture with a big name.
Right. Yeah. I come back.
It's
I
already
win the Royal
established,
Rumble. I come back. I win the Royal. There's a formula. There's a track record and a formula. This is what they do. Batista comes back. He wins the Royal Rumble. He main events WrestleMania. Edge comes back. He's in the Royal Rumble. You know, like I don't know if he won. I think he was in it twice. He might have won. I don't know. He goes on to main event WrestleMania. Like there's a formula, and I was bored of that shit 10 years ago, so I'm bored of it now. So, you know, to me, it's I understand people saying that they don't like certain things and all that. Then, you know, it's not for you. I get it. You know, like I'm like I said, I'm there. I'm there for the fans in the building. I'm telling the stories that I want to tell, and I'm having fun doing it. You know, like you'll know when it's not fun for me because I won't do it. You know.
You mentioned how things have changed or not changed over the last 10 years. What would you say is the biggest difference in the locker rooms you were last in 2013-14 and the locker rooms you're in now? What would you say is the biggest difference?
I mean, it's youth, right? Like there for certain is like a youth movement in wrestling, and there's a lot more cycle breakers in locker rooms nowadays. The people that never understood why they were treated a certain way when we were all on the same team, and instead of continuing to do that tradition of then passing that down and hazing, bullying, whatever you want to call it, there's people like myself that we're just tired of it, and I'm not paying that forward. I'm going to treat people the way that I wasn't treated, the way I thought that everybody should have been treated, with a smile and a hug, rather than oh, you got to earn my respect, or like some weird macho bullshit. It's just a more conducive working environment. If somebody wants to look at that and say that it's soft, that's fine. Like I know people in that locker room that are hard as nails, but just because you're a tough guy doesn't mean you need to be mean to other people.
What was there one moment that made you go, okay, this is it? Because AEW's obviously been around for 2+ years now. Was there one moment that you said, okay, I'm ready, get me the pen, we're ready to do this? Was there one moment, or was it just kind of a culmination of a few things?
Well, the big one was the Brody show, and it wasn't even so much the tribute show for Brody and watching this heart pouring love for this man who passed away unexpectedly and tragically. It was the fact that the locker room kept it a secret. Nobody was trying to sell the codes to the nuclear launch football or anything like that. Nobody was going behind anybody's back. The family had a meeting with everybody and said, please keep this quiet, and everybody kept it quiet. And to me, that goes a long way. That's what everybody always talks about. Oh, the boys, they're a family. It's never really been that way, and that was a big kind of a big sign that, wow, this place it's got to be a great place to work.
So I like to do a kind of this or that with all of these interviews, where I just name two things. You got to pick one or the other. If you want to give me detail as to why you're picking one or the other, cool. If not, we just keep going. You ready?
All right. Yes.
Pizza or hot dogs?
Pizza.
Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali?
Whoo. Muhammad Ali.
If it makes you feel better, the only time I've ever seen Paul Heyman stumped was that very question. Randy Couture or Chuck Liddell?
Man, that's a tough one too. I'll go Couture.
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
I don't have a dog in that fight. So I will I'll pick the Backstreet Boys.
Yo, nobody says NSYNC, and I take it way more personally than
all right. I'll say NSYNC then. I've switched my vote. It's NSYNC.
Or Austin or Rock?
Austin.
Puerto Rican food or the field?
The field?
Everything else, or Puerto Rican food?
Oh, geez. I mean, you can't say that. You're closing the door on Cantonese, Chinese food, Italian pizza. Like, I love Puerto Rican food, but you can't go one against the world. You got to take everything else. You have more variety that way.
So, do you have a favorite Hispanic dish or Puerto Rican type of meal?
Listen, my wife makes the most fantastic guava pastries, and like I have to beg her not to make them because I'll eat them. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to be half naked on television, so it's not conducive to trying to be in shape. She makes a lot of great stuff. Picadilla, the pastries, the guava. I'm all about it.
I just got engaged less than a month ago. All right.
Mazel tov. Congratulations.
Thank you. You mentioned your wife. If you had one bit of advice for me between now and the wedding itself, so throughout the whole process, basically, what would your one advice be for me?
I mean, that day's for y'all. That day's for nobody else. So don't break your back, worrying about if you have enough seats, if there's enough cake, if somebody's going to eat a vegetarian plate or a regular plate of food. Get married for you guys. Have fun with it.
I love that. Appreciate you. One more time, this Wednesday, for the first time ever, CM Punk wrestles on AEW Dynamite on TNT.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Make sure you watch Dynamite tomorrow.